I summarized that correctly, didn't I? There is murder and mayhem in Haiti, but there isn't in Cuba. Yet Western media fastened on what turned out to be manifestations of a rather small and transitory nature in neighboring Cuba. How do you compare and contrast these two things?
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Mr. Galloway. Yes, as people saw around the world, what the Western media focused on July 11, Sunday, was a very small number of people protesting in Cuba, but it was also coordinated among all those people that suddenly sprung on that day, and it hasn't appeared ever since, because these were demonstrations that were planned by the U.S., by the fronts for the CIA, the National Endowment for Democracy, and USAID. The U.S. has taken advantage of this very severe crisis for Cuba with the pandemic, where it has had to shut down the tourism industry, making the income of the country, shrink down to almost nothing, and also the 60-year blockade of the U.S. So it's remarkable that Cuba has maintained, except for these demonstrations. And then what took place 6 days later was a huge turnout of over 100,000 Cubans to say, don't mess with our island. And then you see what has happened in Haiti of these decades of U.S. domination, in which the only time a president was elected, a Democratic president, Aristide, was then overthrown at the hands of the U.S. And so that's the contrast between those two countries.